Hi, Assalamualaikum to everyone. My name is Hazwan Marwan bin MUSTAFFA, and in this video, I will be presenting about ASEAN Charter. Introduction. What is ASEAN Charter? ASEAN Charter is a constitution of ASEAN, and it is to provide legal and institutional framework for ASEAN. It is also to give ASEAN a legal personality, comprising 13 chapters and 55 articles, and I will be explained briefly after this. It is entered into force on 15 December 2008, and the objective of ASEAN Charter is to make ASEAN Charter more effective and efficient, more rule-based and more people. For principles, there are 10 principles of ASEAN Charter, and the first one is to emphasize on the centrality. Next is respect for the principles, promoting regional peace and identity, upholding international law, encouraging regional integration of trades, appointment of Secretary General and Permanent Representative of ASEAN, and establishment of human rights body, development of friendly external interaction, increasing the number of ASEAN summits to twice a year, and last but not least is ASEAN flag, anthem, emblem and National ASEAN Day on 8 August. The purposes of ASEAN Charter divided by into three, which is politics, economic and socials. For politics, it is to enhance regional resilience by promoting greater political security, economic and socio-cultural cooperation. It is also to preserve Southeast Asia as a nuclear weapon-free zone and free of all other weapons of mass destructions. And the last of purposes for politics is to ensure that the people and the member states of ASEAN live in peace and harmonies. For economic purposes is to create a single market and production base which is stable, prosperous, highly competitive and economically integrated within effective trade and investments. The second for purposes of economic is to reduce poverty and narrow gap of development within ASEAN through cooperations. And for socials, the purposes is that every members of states have the rights and responsible to strengthen democracy, enhance good governance, the rule of law, and to promote and protect human rights and freedom. Next is to develop closer cooperation in education, science, and technology and empowerment of the people of ASEAN and strengthen ASEAN community. And last but not least for purposes of social is to enhance the well-being and livelihood of the people of ASEAN by providing with equitable access to opportunities for human development, social welfare and justice. There are 55 principles of ASEAN Charter, and the first and second articles are about ASEAN and its member states comply to fundamental principles contained in declarations. And the second article is ASEAN and its member states shall act in following principle, which is reliance on peaceful settlement of disputes, non-interference in internal affairs of ASEAN member states, respects for the rights of every member state of free from external interference, supervision and coercion. Next is to respect for the different cultures, language and religions of people of ASEAN. Last but not least is to conform on the multilateral trade rules and ASEAN rules for effective implementation, economic commitment and eliminate barriers of any related to human development, social welfare and justice. Article 3 in Chapter 2 of Legal Personality talks about legal personality of ASEAN. ASEAN, an intergovernmental organization, is hereby conferred legal personality. In Chapter 3 is about membership and it contains of Article 4, 5 and 6. In Article 4 is about member states consists of 10 members of ASEAN. Article 5 is about rights and obligations. Member states shall have equal rights and obligations, compliance with all obligation of memberships, serious breach of Charter or non-compliance will refer to Article 20. Later on, I will be explaining. And Article 6 is admission of new members. The procedure of application and admission to ASEAN shall be prescribed by the ASEAN Coordinating Council. Next is admission shall be decided by consensus by the ASEAN Summit, and an applicant state shall be admitted to ASEAN upon signing an instrument of accession to Thai Charter. Next is Chapter 4 about organ. In Article 7, ASEAN Summit shall comprise the head of state or government of the member states. ASEAN Summit shall be supreme policy making body of ASEAN, address emergency situation affecting ASEAN, and authorize the establishment and dissolution of sectorial ministerial bodies and appoint the Secretary General of ASEAN. ASEAN also summit meetings shall be held twice annually, and venues of the ASEAN summits shall be agreed by all the member states. And in Article 8 is about ASEAN Coordinating Council. The ASEAN Coordinating Council shall comprise ASEAN foreign minister and meet at least twice a year. The ASEAN Coordinating Council shall be prepare the meeting of ASEAN, coordinate the implementation of agreement and decision of ASEAN Summit, coordinate ASEAN Community Council to enhance policy and approve the appointment and termination of Deputy Secretary General. In Article 9 is about ASEAN Community Council. Compromise in terms of ASEAN Political Security Council, ASEAN Economic Community Council, and ASEAN Social Cultural Community Council. And in order to achieve the objective of 3 pillars of ASEAN community, they shall ensure to achieve the objective of 3 pillars of ASEAN community. Coordinate the work of different sectors and issue which cut across the Community Council. Submit report and recommendation of ASEAN Summit and shall meet at least twice a year. In Article 10 is about ASEAN sectoral ministerial bodies. They shall function in accordance with their responsible and establish, implement the agreement and decision of ASEAN Summit, and strengthen cooperation to support ASEAN integration and community. Summit report and recommendation to Community Council. Article 11 is about Secretary General of ASEAN and ASEAN Security. Shall be appointed by ASEAN Summit. It shall be the Chief Administrative Officer of ASEAN and shall be assisted by 4 Deputy Secretary General. The 4 Deputy of Secretaries General shall be different nationalities and from Secretaries General and come from our 4 different ASEAN member states. And in Article 12, Committee of Permanent Representative to ASEAN. So, each member states shall appoint permanent representative to ASEAN. And in Article 13, in ASEAN National Secretariat, each ASEAN member shall establish an ASEAN National Secretariat. And in Article 14, ASEAN Human Rights Body to promote and protect of human rights and freedom. Chapter 5 is entities associated with ASEAN. In Article 16, it supports the ASEAN Charter in terms of purposes and principles. It is according list in Annex 2. In Chapter 6 of Immunities and Privileges, Article 17 talk about balancing of immunities and privileges to ASEAN country. It is need to separate between ASEAN and host member states. And Article 18 is about necessary to member states in ASEAN. Chapter 7 is decision making. In Article 20, consultation and consensus and how creative ASEAN Summit through the specific decisions. Article 21 is each ASEAN Community Council shall prescribe their own of procedure and, for example, economic commitment. Next is Chapter 8 of Settlement of Disputes. In Article 22, between member states to get peacefully and maintain and establish dispute settlement mechanisms. And in Article 23 is about good offices, conciliation and meditations. In Article 24 is about dispute settlements mechanism in specific instruments. And according to Treaty and Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia to resolve peacefully when disputes of economic need settled according to ASEAN Protocol and enhance disputed settlement mechanism. Article 25 is about establishment of dispute settlements mechanisms. Article 26 is unresolved disputes. Article 27 is about compliance, and Article 28 is about United Nations Charter provisions and other relevant international procedures. Chapter 9 is budgeted and finance. In Article 29 is rules and procedure as shall according to international standard. It shall observe sound financial management policy, practices budgetary discipline, shall be subject and internal and external audits. And in Article 30, operation budget and finances of ASEAN Secretariat shall provide with the necessary financial resource to perform its function effectively and should meet ASEAN member states through equal annual contributions. The annual operations budget prepared by the Secretary General and referred to ASEAN Coordinating Council. Chapter 10 is about administrative and procedure. In Article 31, Chairman of ASEAN shall rotate annually based on the alphabetic order of the English name of member states. And in Article 32, rules of Chairman of ASEAN which is actively promoted and enhance the interests and well-being of ASEANs. In Article 33, diplomatic protocol and practices, and Article 34 is working languages of ASEAN shall be in English. Chapter 11 is identity and symbols. In Article 35 about ASEAN identity, ASEAN shall promote it in common ASEAN identity and has sense of belonging among its people in order to achieve its shared destiny, goals and value. In Article 36 of ASEAN motto, the ASEAN motto is one vision, one identity and one community. In Article 37 is about ASEAN flag. The ASEAN flag shall be as shown in the diagram I've stated. In Article 38, the ASEAN emblem shall be as shown in figure as I've shown. And in Article 39, ASEAN Day, the August 8 shall be observed as ASEAN Days. And Article 40 is about ASEAN shall have an anthem. Chapter 12 is external and relations. Article 41 conducts of external relations. The external relation of ASEAN shall adhere to the purposes and principles set forth in Charter. In Article 42 is about dialogue and coordinator. It consists of member states acting as country coordinator shall take turn to take overall responsibility in coordinating and promoting the interests of ASEAN in its relation with the relevant dialogue partner, regional and international organization and institutions. In Article 43, ASEAN committees in third countries and the international organizations. ASEAN foreign members meetings shall determine the rules and procedures of such committees. In Article 44 is about status of external parties, and in Article 45 is about relation with the United Nations system, other international organizations and institutions. It states that ASEAN may seek appropriate status with the United Nations system as well as with the other sub-regional or regional international organizations and institutions. In Article 46 is about accreditations of non-ASEAN member states to ASEAN. A non-ASEAN member states and relevant intergovernment organizations may appoint and accredit ambassadors to ASEAN. The ASEAN foreign members shall decide on such accreditations. Chapter 13 is the last chapter of the Principle of ASEAN Charters, and it talks about generals and provisions. In Article 47, it states that signature, ratification, depository, and entry into force. This charter shall be signed by all ASEAN member states, and this charter shall be subject to ratification by all ASEAN member states in accordance with their respective internal procedures. In Article 48 is about amendments, and it states that any member states may propose amendment to the charter. In Article 49, it states that the terms of reference and rules of procedures, unless they are otherwise provided for in this charter, the ASEAN coordinating shall determine by the term of reference and rules of procedures. Article 50 is about review. This charter may be reviewed by 5 years after its entry into force or otherwise to be determined by ASEAN summits. In Article 51 is about interpretation of charter. It states that upon the request of any member of states, the interpretations of the charter shall be undertaken by the ASEAN Secretariat in accordance with the rules of procedure determined by the ASEAN Coordinating Council. In Article 52, it's about legal continuity. It states that all treaties, conventions, agreements, concords, declarations, protocols, and other ASEAN instruments which has been in effect before the entry into force of this charter shall continue to be valid. Article 53 is about original text. It states that the signed original text of this charter is in English. It shall be deposited of the Secretary General of ASEAN, which provide a certified copy to member states. And in Article 54 is about resignation of ASEAN Charter. This charter shall be registered by the Secretary General of ASEAN with the Secretariat of United Nations. And last but not least is in Article 55 is about ASEAN assets. It states that the assets and the fund of organizations shall be vested in the name of ASEAN. There are a few ASEAN economic communities, and it is ASEAN Economic Minister Meeting, AEM, which is high-level task force on ASEAN Economic Integration, HLTF-EI, and Senior Economic Officials Meeting, SEOM, ASEAN Free Trade Area Council, AFTA, ASEAN Invested Area Council, AIA, ASEAN Minister of Energy Meeting, AMEM, Senior Official Meetings of Energy, SOME. There are 3 issues and 3 recommendations that I found about ASEAN Charter. The first issue is developing dispute resolutions. ASEAN has traditionally emphasized consensus and formality in decision making. Formal disputes resolutions mechanisms are rare exceptions and currently limited mainly to economic areas. Despite the charter provisions, no new and clear rules about procedure or mechanisms have been added to the summit ASEAN generally. On territorial disputes, ASEAN countries have on occasions submitted themselves to international dispute arbitrations, and some have argued for sanctions and other means of enforcement as measures that can be taken when an ASEAN member state does not comply with decisions that have been made. Political crisis is to establish mechanisms to reset automatically in organized way. My recommendations for issue 1 is to develop disputes settlement of mechanisms. In 2004, ASEAN Protocol on Enhanced Dispute Settlements Mechanisms, Vietnam Protocol. The Vietnam Protocol provides for a panel to set up to study instances of economic disputes between ASEAN member states and try to use its findings to aid the members of Senior Economic Officials Meetings (SOEM), some towards dispute resolutions. Vietnam Protocol still provides 3 political solutions as compared to rule-based mechanisms used in World Trade Organization's WTO. Additionally, ASEAN could also learn from the WTO's process of holding policy dialogues with different stakeholders. Next issue of ASEAN Charter is about human rights. Differing views continues. The inclusions of human rights in ASEAN Charter as a principle of the groups and with a human rights commissions was controversial. The inclusions of human rights into agenda shows that ASEAN has to respond to the challenges arising from the assertions of human rights as universal values. This goes beyond defensive policy in mid-1990s when ASEAN values were asserted and into contrast to human rights as Western values. The ASEAN Charter refers to universal principle terms of democracy and human rights. However, in Article 6 of ASEAN Human Rights Declarations clearly states that in the responsibility to protect and promote human rights lies with ASEAN member states. These contradictions constitutes one of the fundamental problems the ASEAN Charter faces on the questions of human rights. The concerns of interference are even stronger in respect of specific rights. My recommendation for issue number 2 is to focus on improving publicity of AICHR's works. It is to recommended that ASEAN focuses on improving publicity promotion first of AICHR's works and seek to increase efficiency within AICHR's current scope. AICHR should revamp and step up its communication strategy through new media. Best practices in the promotion of human rights issue is in other regions of the world should be identified, which while more ASEAN member states should institute more consultation processes with civil society organizations. Beyond this, given the divisions among ASEAN members on the issue, it is best that reviewing human rights as topic and AICHR as an institution within the Charter be left for future time. The issue number 3, which is the last issue, is the capacity and funding the ASEAN Secretariat. The ASEAN Secretariat scopes of work has intensified with mandate and additional tasks conferred upon it by the ASEAN Charter. However, staff size of ASEAN Secretariat has not increased significantly to deal with this increased workload associated with ASEAN Charter and AEC 2015. Many experts and officials have agreed that the ASEAN Secretariat is underfunded and understaffed. And so, the recommendation of issue number 3 is refocusing the Community of Permanent Representative. The scope of Community of Permanent Representative (CPR) should be refocused to take on more responsibilities and increase mandate from their home governments to forward in Jakarta, and therefore lessening the number of meetings among officials and the workload of ASEAN Secretariat. In conclusion of my presentations, the ASEAN Charter development does reflect a turning point of ASEAN history and evolutions. The focus of ASEAN Charter is a positive sign for the development and enhancement of governments and institutions in the region. The ASEAN community will significantly raise the living standard of Southeast Asia as a whole and vehemently augment inter-ASEAN trade. And that's all for my presentation. I hope people that watch this video get more info about ASEAN Charter. And my name is Hazwan Marwan bin MUSTAFFA. Thank you for watching. Assalamualaikum.